Hello and welcome. In this video we're going to be covering the features and updates in SPC 3.8. This video is targeted at customers who are familiar with SPC 3.6.6 and will cover all the features and benefits added since SPC 3.6.6. My name is John O'Donnell and I am part of the product management team at Vanderbilt Industries based in Dublin. I am joined by my colleague today, Ian Hanlon.
Hi, I'm Ian Hanlon and I'm part of the Global Technical Services team. We're based in Karlsruhe and here in Dublin, and we support the customer service desks around Europe.
Thank you, Ian. Just to give a brief overview of what we'll be covering in this video, we have a number of topics to cover in SPC 3.8.0, and these are broken down into general topics, and then we're going through specific areas on the SPC system. And the format of this is we're going to introduce a topic and then show you on the web browser or visually the system being configured or operated. One little disclaimer before we start. For the most up-to-date information, we would ask you to refer to the SPC 3.8 release notes, which are contained in the download pack you will receive. And of course, all information provided is provided accurately at time of recording. So Ian, one of the main changes we made in SPC 3.8 was the update to the file structure.
That's correct. So due to the change in the SPC system, there is now a new file format in the firmwares. As a result of this, the update process, and in particular the files used, have changed. In the firmware folders contained in the release, there will be 3 folders. There will be an update from 3.6, 3.7 to the latest 3.8 firmware. If you already have an earlier 3.8 release candidate version, you can now update it to 3.8 release version. You only need the second file. And finally, the third one is the downgrading of the system from 3.8 back to 3.7, because the file formats are different. You have to do a special downgrade back to 3.7 if you require this.
And is there any change in operation for any of our customers because of this, Ian?
Well, for example, there is small changes. The main one would be you've always had the convenience of being able to take a, for example, 3.6 configuration file and put it straight into a 3.7 panel. And the panel would do the firmware upgrade for you, or the configuration upgrade for you. But now, if you want to go from a 3.7 config, for example, to a 3.8 config, you must actually do the panel upgrade. You cannot take a firmware configuration file out of a 3.7 and put it into a 3.8. That will be one of the main features of this. So you have to upgrade the panel from 3.7 to 3.8, and that process will upgrade the configuration file to 3.8 internally.
Thank you, Ian. Of course, in terms of graphical interface and the way you interact with files, it all remains the same and very convenient.
Yes, some of the pages have slightly changed the way they look to make them more intuitive, but the menu structure, the configuration file itself, all looks the same. So there's very, very little change in that respect.
Yes, and of course we'll get to some of those changes later on features. Just moving on to the next topic, the additional regions. So we at Product Manager get a lot of different requests from different regions for different features, and how installers like to see their system starting up to make it as quickly and easy as possible. And to support that and to react to that, we've had to expand the SPC system with a lot more regions. And the way to make this a little bit easier for everyone, we've added another layer called continent. So you'll be able to select Europe, Asia, North America, South America, or Oceania. It's important to note any customer who had a region or was using a region previously, there is no change. This just allows us to manage customers and regions and settings a bit easier. So just showing you the configuration then, If I select configuration on the SPC webpage and select system, we can see the new webpage, we can see the new countries.
The existing countries that we had already in there in 3.7, John, those approvals or standards will remain the same in it, and all the configuration and setting will remain the same. Nothing has changed there. But for example, for the new ones, North America, South America, Oceanic, or Asia, what approvals or standards have they got behind those?
There is no local approvals that we have at the moment in these regions. We kind of add these prior to going in for approvals, because if we have to make a change to support Australia, we need to be able to specifically pinpoint we're doing this for Australia. So there are no approvals for these for North America or South America. It's just allowing us to build on the system to make it better for in those regions. All of the regions that have been added based on the European standard. So if you had selected European grade 2 and grade 3, and now you select Brazil, for example, you're going to get the same settings.
Okay, understood.
So now we come to a specific group of functions specifically aimed at the SPC keypads. So we've added a number of features to enhance the SPC keypads operations. And the first one we're going to talk about is a very simple one. It's called Keypad Access Protection.
Okay, in Market Package 3.8, we've introduced some new features in relation to the keypad and the logging of users when they use the actual system keypad. One of the new features we have is an option called Log Keypad Access. This is found in the system options, and when enabled, it logs all keypad access of any user on the system into the system log itself. Originally, we only ever transmitted keypad access to central stations or to ARCs, but now we actually log it in the system log. It's a nice new feature, and as I said, that can be found in system options, as you can see there.
So as Ian said there, I've logged onto the SPC webpage, I've selected system options, and gone down to the keypad section and just enable that option. And I'm going to save that. And I'm just going to log in it with a user code, just to trigger the log.
Another new function we have on the keypad itself in the keypad menu is or in the system options, is called Use Simplified Menu. What this does is it changes both the SPCK 620 range of keypad and the 520 range to give a simplified menu on the keypad. So for example, rather than being a multi-area keypad now, it's more aimed at the residential domestic, where they have one area, so they have the menu saying system full set, part set A, part set B, and on set in the menu itself. You can also rotate through these keypad menus, where before you had a top and a bottom menu. Now you can scroll back around from the top to the bottom instantly, which on the long system options menus comes in very handy for getting to the area you want to quickly. Another phone. Sorry?
Well, hold on. Sorry, did you jump on the next one, yeah?
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Okay, so to select that option, as Ian said, we select Configuration System. Okay. And we now have the option here, Use Simplified Menus. So as Ian said, once that's enabled, then the roll around on the menus applies to all keypads, and the keypad on the SPCK 5 and SPCK 6, as you'll see here, now behaves like the SPCK 4 series keypads. Thank you.
is our option, our pace entry option. We can now put the actual pace number onto the system via the web page. Initially, the only two options was to present a pace and then add it, and the other one was to learn it on through the keypad. But now we have the third option of being able to enter the pace number onto the system.
Yeah, as Ian said, this is in user's configuration, so I've chosen a user here. I've just badged the pace on a keypad. So the unknown pace option has existed since 3.6.6. And once that's enabled, I can select the pace and enter it manually. Alternatively, I can type in the exact same pace number and save that to the user. And again, I can delete the pace as before.
The next new feature we've included is our RF jamming delay. This can be found in the web browser only and can be found in the System Timers section. The RF jamming allows us to put in a user-definable time so we can delay the alert occurring on the system. Initially, this was a defined time in the system.
Okay, thank you, Vin. One of the new features we have in SPC 3.8 is what we call quiet mode. And what this allows us to do is in multi-tenant situations or split situations where a keypad may be located in an area that's armed or where you don't want to disturb people, where the keypad is physically located. When this option is enabled, when a person is arming a different part of the system, so they're leaving the shop at the end of the night and the area upstairs is armed, the keypad won't buzz with the exit time or any entry time when they're leaving the zone. It will still trigger alarms, it's just not to disturb people when the system is being armed.
The next option we've included is our test menu reporting. This allows the engineer to test alarm transmissions into the central station without having to generate an actual alarm on the system or bells. And this is usually done when people are in office or the premises during the day and they don't want to disturb the people in it. So basically this can be found on the keypad. It's in the test menu section, in the reporting, and you can select a zone type, and then also a zone event, be it an alarm or restore. And this will send in a transmission to the central station, be it an alarm transmission or a restore to the central station. And you can then check with the ARC to make sure that they've got the right events in. All these test transmissions are sent over EDP and Flexi and SMS also. So you're testing all forms of transmission in these menus.
So no need to set off bells anymore when you want to test a burglary alarm, which is kind of useful.
Correct. We've now improved our soak zone test on the system. So normally you soak the zone. If it opens in any set state, it will then log those activations. And when you unset the system, it will display those activations. It will tell you the number of activations that have occurred during that set period, and it will also tell you which activations has occurred. And it will also log those in the system log as well, that you can look at them and see exactly what time they actually happened at.
Okay, thank you, Ian. And there's no configuration option for that option. That is by default idle message option.
The next new option we've included in Market Package 3.8 is the Human Icon LED. This can be found on the SPC K620 series and the 520 series. It's an icon on the keypad menu, an option in the keypad menu called Human Icon. And you can assign a trigger to that particular option, and behind that trigger can be anything. For example, a mapping gate going open closed, and so on and so forth, generated by a zone opening, generated by an output opening, generated by a system arming, disarming. So you can decide basically what function you want behind that trigger, and that will switch on the human icon. So it's an LED indicator for the customer or for the engineer.
Yep. I think one of the main use cases of this was we received a large number of requests to change the operation of this human icon. Some people wanted, as Ian said, to use it to show when the system is ready to set. Some people wanted it to show if there's still people in the building. One of the next new features we've added in SP 3.8 is the keypad levels, access levels. Now, this was added only for a project whereby keypads are located in certain areas where users were not to be allowed to configure the system or access a keypad or certain keypads in certain areas. So our solution to this is to introduce this level. So if a keypad is located in a common area, we may allow arming, disarming only, but the user cannot change their pin on this keypad. If a keypad is located in an area where you don't want anyone doing anything from it, just viewing alarms or seeing information, then that keypad can be reduced down to a view-only configuration level. These options are in keypad settings, and their main function is to restrict the levels of functions available on the keypad. Okay, the next new feature we have to introduce in SPC 3.8 is the user change to access level write 3. The base of this feature was we had a request from a number of customers to allow certain users additional rights, to have not just the ability to restore, inhibit, and isolate, but to be able to restore, inhibit, and isolate at a level above the standard users. So you can have a security guard on site or a security manager who would be given this right. This right allows for level 3 access. And when we refer to level 3 access, we mean the options that are generally only reserved for an installer. Now, this is only available unrestricted, and the way the SPC user profiles work, if the installer doesn't give anyone this right or the user master right, then nobody can have this right. So it is a safe option in that context, but it does allow a lot of freedom to refine different levels of users again.
Okay, the next option we have is alarm access, the new alarm access option. And this can be found in the user section and also in system timers. This new option allows you to set up a user that only has access to the system on set, for example, when an alarm condition is present. So normally in the onset mode, no alarm condition, that user has no access onto the system, but the minute there's an alarm, then they have access. It's ideal, for example, a security guard walking around the premises checking it, and if an alarm goes off, that they can actually go in and check. For the safety of that person or security guard, we have two timers. We have a lockout time and we have an access time. The lockout time is in minutes, and this only allows the function or the right to unset the system and enter the premises when the lockout time has expired. So this is to stop anybody walking in on top of an intruder or burglar in the premises. So it gives time to check around before actually entering the building. The second timer is our access time. And this allows the code to work until that access time expires. The default time is 120 minutes. And when that expires, that access code has no more rights on the system until the next alarm.
Okay, thank you, Ian. So I'm just going to do a quick demonstration of that one because it's a very useful feature and it actually has a lot of use cases for domestic, commercial, card holders, security guards, neighbors, where you mightn't be entirely sure, but you want to give them a code in case the alarm goes off. So all you have to do when you're setting up a user is at the very top, click this alarm access. That enables the feature. This user now has absolutely no access unless there's actually an alarm on the system. And then if we want to change the timers, we can go configuration, system timers. And we can see here the two lockout and access times that Ian was referring to. So again, just to repeat what Ian said, once the alarm happens, this person will not have access for 20 minutes, the way this is configured, and they will have access for 120 minutes after they've been given access. So if you wish, you can set this to 1 minute or immediate. However, you do run the small risk if you're securing a secure premises that if you do not entirely trust this person to give them a full active code, they could, in theory, break in and use their code to onset the system. So we would always recommend having a small delay if you're using this feature to ensure that the alarms are reported back to the system.
Okay. The next feature we've included and enhanced is our cause and effect functionality. The first thing we've done is we've moved the output area and door trigger setup into one location. Initially, if you want to set up a trigger for a door, you went to the door section, areas, area, and so on. But now they're all in the one cause and effect configuration area. So this makes it much handier to set them up, but also then go in and review them afterwards, that you're not jumping from one page to the other.
Yeah, I think there's quite a lot in this. I think we may actually be doing additional videos on this in this configuration. But as Ian said, you can see here the area, the doors, and if we had mapping gates in here, these would be assigned as well. We've also enhanced quite dramatically the amount of triggers on the system. So we've rearranged the way we've organized our conditions. So the conditions in 3.6 and 3.7 were a long list, and we've kind of broken them down into a tabular form to make them easier to view. And just to show you some of the more interesting ones here that we're just going to highlight is that we had previously the ability to trigger off certain user actions when they swiped a card. And when the systems got big, this became a little bit restrictive. So we've now allowed you to select similar options but on a profile. So if any user with that profile performs that action, it'll trigger a condition. We've also added new system options where you can trigger off system reboot, overcurrent. But all the previous trigger elements that were included in 3.6.6 and 3.7 are still included in 3.8. This is purely a graphical change. And then the very last thing I'd just like to mention in the triggers is this very small change. The very small change we've made in triggers is this all or any function. So previous to this, all triggers conditions had to be active before the trigger would actuate. Now what we've allowed you to say is that if any trigger condition is active, the system can actuate that trigger. And as Ian and I can both appreciate, this will make programming activity in an area where you want to put all the zones into one trigger and say, if any zone triggers, do something. Will make programming much easier.
Okay. Still on the cause and effect theme, we've also added a cause and effect log onto the system. So this can be found in our log section under cause and effect log. So the new log for this operation of cause and effect is available in the web page and logs the following states: the mapping gates on and off from triggers, area trigger, onset, full set, etc., and the door action triggers like locked, unlocked, normal, and so on and so forth. Okay, this can only be viewed in the engineer web page. It cannot be viewed under a system user login. So just be aware of that.
It's a very useful feature for debugging the system and seeing what's happening in the cause and effect.
A new cause and effect feature we've added to the key switch module is the key switch shunt. This can be found in the browser only, and it's under hardware and expanders. One of the new functions is called shunt. By selecting this function, you are inhibiting the inputs that have been previously given the shunt attribute. Please be aware that this is area specific. So for example, if the area is area 1, it will shunt all zones with the shunt attribute in area 1. We now have included a new range of zone types in Markup Package 3.8. These include water, heat, fridge freezer, gas, sprinkler, CO, and exit entry 2. These zones also report over EDP, Flexi, ARC, and SMS, like all other zone types. And they can be found in the alarm and the alarm restore filters on both the EDP and the Flexi. Each area can now support up to 2 entry timers, exit entry and now exit entry 2. This can be achieved by choosing the zone type of your choice.
Yeah, I think one of the use cases here we're really kind of looking at is that if you have a front door and a back door, very simple setup on a system, and it allows you to vary the entry time. So if someone opens the back door, they're getting 6 seconds. If someone opens the front door, they're getting 15 seconds. So it's all about protecting the system and ensuring they can't get to the central controller within the time and interfere with the system. So it just adds a bit more flexibility to the customer to allow them to be protected as best as possible.
Okay, we've also added new functions to the key arm options. These are new attributes called part set A and part set B and full set. Initially, the key arm zone only did full set onset, but now we have included a part set A and the part set B for those options. We've also now enhanced the zone restore on some of our zone types. For example, entry or alarm zones can be restored if the zone is now open or in an active state. Initially, the zone had to be closed and the alert cleared before the restore could occur.
Yeah, and this is very useful for customers, especially when the main use case we had heard from a lot of our installers was when a door is broken or physically cannot be closed because of something that's happened on site. And then the customers can't restore the alarm and they have this issue where they can't signal back to the CMS that they are actually dealing with the alarm. But now when they arrive on site, onset the system, they can restore it even though it's open. The rule that we've applied is that they can't restore it if it's creating a new alarm. So if it's in tamper or it's a 24-hour alarm zone, they won't be allowed to restore it. We've also added a new feature to our zones that have the final exit attribute. When the final exit attribute was applied to a zone, what it allowed the user to do was to shorten an entry time from, for example, 30 seconds to 8 seconds. So once they closed the zone, it immediately went from 30 to 8, and that was very useful. However, we had a small request from customers that if the zone didn't close or the customer forgot to close the door, that we get a fail to set. So when the final exit attribute is applied to a zone, if it's open today with 3.6 and 3.7, it'll actually stay at 8 seconds until that door is closed, which is very useful for shops and for exiting a system in a clean manner. However, when this option is now unchecked, the system will continue to count down. So it'll go 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then create a fail to set in the system, signaling to your customer and to the CMS that the system is not protected. This new feature is actually not an addition, it's actually a removal, which is from zone status. So we added in 3.6 and 3.7, 3.4 and 5 this very detailed ability to analyze the zone quality and to see exactly what the zone was doing at the input level in order to improve wiring and to help you to figure out what was wrong with the system. However, this was also visible to the user, and it caused a few questions why zones were noisy or occasionally unsatisfactory. So this information was always intended for engineers. So that information has now been completely removed from the user. So when they log in, they will not see EOL quality anymore. There is no way to alter this also.
Okay, John, we've now also added a new function, a transmission function to the seismic detectors to enhance the reporting a test pass or a test fail. These two filters can be found in the walk test option.
And these are done after the automatic test or the manual test on the seismic. The next new feature we're just going to discuss is alarm zone state change. So we have had the ability to report zone opening and zone closing for a very long time. And what we've added in SPC now is the ability to report this information after an alarm has occurred. So to report this information all the time is excessive. But once something happens on your system or someone's breaking into your system, this allows you to track someone actually moving around the system. So normally when a PI or a contact is triggered, it'll trigger a burglary alarm and then signal nothing to a monitoring system or to yourself until that's restored by you. So what this allows you to do is to actually have zone opens and zone closes so you can see if there's someone still there and increase the protection for yourself. In order to enable this, this is only available on Flexi, and you must change the event profile to enable zone state change in alarm. So just to show you where this is, I select Communications, Flexi, I select the event profiles, and I have a profile here, Event 3, which I'm allowed to edit, and I can see here the new option, which is enabled.
Okay. A new option we've included in our Flexi and auto-enroll function is that the panel can now be automatically auto-enrolled into a panel group. So this can be found in the Flexi information section of the ATP itself. It's the auto-enroll details on the bottom of the page. You can see there. John will just show you in 1 second in the installation details. And you can add a panel into up to 5 groups, panel group ID 1 to 5. The value you put in there must match the panel group value that's entered in on your SPC Connect account. And once they match and the company ID matches, then the panel will be automatically enrolled into the company, but also into the panel group itself.
Thank you, Ian. And this is just the ever tightening and closing between SPC Connect and SPC. That we're trying to make it as easy as possible to plug and play the systems into SPC Connect, especially into the panel groups, just to automatically activate all the functionality that's in SPC Connect. But we have plenty of videos discussing SPC Connect 2.0 and all the functionalities around that.
Okay, John. We've now also enhanced the SMS Test Message function. Initially, you would set this up, for example, a 24-hour period, 1 week, and so on, but it would send the SMS the time you actually set it up. But now what we can do is we can actually add in a start date and time. So you can put in the day, month, and year, and the hour and minute. And that initial test message will go in on that time, and then go in as per the automated SMS time you set up, for example, 24 hours or 1 week or even 1 month. So this is to allow you to get the SMS at a reasonable time rather than 2 or 3 in the morning. You can set it up for 10 at night or for 5 in the day and so on.
Yep, and I think one of the advantages of this was when a panel rebooted, people got used to getting it at 2 p.m. on a Sunday or 2 p.m. on a Saturday, or unfortunately maybe at 5 a.m. But if you ever rebooted the panel, that time would change, and that was a cause of some complaints. So that's why the date is there also, that if people have it set up to be 7 days and they're expecting it on a Tuesday, it'll always arrive at a Tuesday at 1 o'clock, and they get that confidence in that reporting ability.
Okay. The next new option we've included in Market Package 3.8 is our new Access Exit option. Okay, we can find this in our door section and in Edit Door, and you can decide where a door is entry or exit functionality. We've added this so that even an entry door or entry reader can now have an exit timer on it. Before, if you tried to arm the system on an entry reader, it was instant. And some people wanted to use an entry reader inside because it gave the full capability of the door controller itself, which had 2 entries on it. So they can have 2 entry doors, but they can have exit timers on both those doors and using the full capability of the system or maximizing the doors on the system. So you can now have an exit timer even on an entry reader. Okay. Another function around access is dual authorization. So this now requires two users on a door to present both their cards to, for example, grant access to that particular door. Again, it can be found in the Edit Door section for each door, and you can set it up, enable it there for dual authorization.
Yep, this is actually a very useful feature for protecting vaults. Because it's selectable by door, we'll see in a few futures time, we can also have this time selected. So we can have this enabled for a morning use case or an evening use case where it takes two people to arm or two people to disarm. It's quite a useful personal protection feature within the system.
We also have a timer related to this particular function, which is the completion authorization time. And this time, the two cards must be presented within a specific time frame to constitute an access granted as well. So that's important. Okay, we now have given the function to control the LED, the green and the red LED control output on each door controller, door input and reader input. So we can have triggers in there to have full control over the green LED and the red LED. And this gives an advantage to, for example, a visual indication if a system is armed or an area is armed or an area is ready to arm from the actual door reader itself. So it's easily recognized on it. And you can have separate triggers for both green and red LED.
And because these are using standard mapping gate control, and mapping gates can be controlled remotely, they can actually also be controlled by remote software or by a controller.
Okay.
So maybe I'll just, as I have control of the web interfacing, just show the next two, because they are really web interface enhancements which we've enabled, which are to be able to download calendars. So in my system today, just to show, I have one calendar, nothing particularly special about it. When I go to File and File Manager, I can now download this calendar. And what this allows me to do, in the concept here, is that if you're setting up the same calendars in every site, you can set it up once on an SPC panel and then import all the calendars back in. And you are importing all the calendars back in immediately. So you can set up all the 9 to 5 schedules and have whatever calendars and exception days you require.
One of the things you would have noticed when John was showing you the calendars is this yellow band across it. And this actually indicates the week that you're in on the year itself when you're looking. So you know that when you're setting something up, this is actually the week you're on at the moment. So we just enhance the display on the calendar itself. Another option we've added for handiness sake is the copy all in the week types. So we go into week types, you can see there, and we put in settings for a calendar. We can hit copy all. So for example, if I add just Monday in, start, on and off time, and do copy all, it will put it in the rest of the week. And then if we wish to remove Saturday and Sunday, we can, but it's an easy way of populating the calendar very, very, very quickly. And obviously one of the things that John spoke about there earlier was the export and import of calendars, done very, very quickly. Another new function is the logo upload. This is new. We never had this option, and any logo upload to the system was done on our SPC Pro application. But now we can browse to a file, a logo, we can import it, and then we can send it straight to the panel. It's very simple. It does have to be in a bitmap format, and the size of that bitmap should be 128 by 45.
It's worth pointing out in the download package we're providing with SPC 3.8, we are providing a number of template files to demonstrate this. So those files, those bitmaps, are actually the correct 128 by 45, and you can feel free to take one of them, alter it, and use it as a template.
We've also included a new option in the Areas menu. It can be found on the web page, and the option is Auto Restore and Forset. So if you have a calendar set up for an auto arm function, and you arm using this auto arm function, you will restore any alert, for example the mains alert on the system, when you're arming that system. The advantage of that is that if you do have another mains fail, for example, in the set mode, that event will go through to the central station, where before it would have had to be manually restored before it went through again. So it's one of the handy functions that this has. We've also added in the Help menu on our web page now. So it's in the Help section, and you can click on that and you can get information like configuration manuals, links to Vanderbilt support pages, and so on. John is just showing you there. So you can see all the configuration manuals we have in all the different core languages. We also have a link to an SPC knowledge base, which is very, very handy for any FAQs. And these can be seen through filters. You can see there we have the different products and so on in the different languages.
Just further to Ian's point, we can also click on the knowledge base and expand it out into its own window. And this is lots of information available to you, and it's continuously updated with all Vanderbilt products. What it's there to do is to provide solutions for you. If you provide a problem or you're looking for a solution for a particular use case you have, this is a great place to start. And you can instantly access this now from the SPC webpage or from spcsupportinfo.com. Ian, as you wrote any of these, a lot of these knowledge articles, any comments?
No, one thing is that this particular menu is dynamic, so from day to day, week to week, we're always adding to it, always including it based upon live experience from our service teams, our customer service teams. So if they get a question from a customer that's relevant, then we will actually add it to the knowledge base. So it's constantly being updated.
Thank you, Ian. And just the other things we've included here, just if you're watching this video, you're probably already accessing our YouTube channel and are subscribed, but we also have access to our main products website where there's a lot more information about our products, and we also have the Vanderbilt Twitter feed available here if you're interested. So I think that really closes off SPC 3.8, and we can move on to our SPC 3.7.1 and 7.0 just to cover off for people who may not be familiar with what we changed in those packages. So one of the features we added in SPC 3.7 is an enhancement of the auto restore function. SPC had a global auto restore which would restore every alert once it went back to a normal state. What we enhanced in 3.7 was a granularity that allowed you to select individual zones and to also decide when they would restore. So in each zone now you can select auto restore, and we also have a timer called auto restore delay. So when a zone closes, if the auto restore delay is set to 0, it will automatically restore. If it's set to 10 seconds, it'll restore to 10 seconds. And if it reopens within that 10 seconds, it will not restore. So very useful feature for systems that are completely monitored or there is no human on site to restore them.
Okay, in this market package, we also added a delay activation timer to each individual tech zone. Initially, the tech delay was applicable to all zones. It was global across all technical zones, but now it's on each individual zone. So this basically allows us a delay on the zone opening before it actually sends through an alert or a transmission or whatever is connected to that particular zone.
Okay, thank you, Ian. SPC 3.7 is another access feature that we've enhanced, and this one you've actually seen already in SPC 3.8, which is the ability to assign a calendar to door attributes. And this allows you to define different security levels throughout the day. So you can have on setting and full setting only available in the morning and only available in the evening, or having escort required during the morning. An extension of the door attributes was also done during 3.7 to allow for PIN or card and to exit with card. This new option was added to complement the entry with card function that already existed in the system. Now, one feature we've added in 3.7 that's also in 3.8 and is an enhancement in 3.6 was a feature called camera authorization. Now, the name is a little deceptive. What it actually has to do with is how certain cameras operate and authorize the username and password on a system. This is to do with the OnVIF-G protocol, and so we generally supported the S protocol with the older system. So for certain Vanderbilt cameras, especially the Aventus range, this camera authorization will have to be used. So just in quick summary again, SPC 3.8.0 has quite a lot of features in it. We hope you've enjoyed this brief overview, and we look forward to seeing you again in the near future.
Finally, we also recommend that you sign up on our SPIAP website. This will give you more information on all our products, and it'll also give you access to our download section where you can download the Market Package 3.8